That brings me up to a story that Joe Torre told me when we had him on the day after Mariano got into the Hall of Fame unanimously, first ever, that when Torre arrived in 96, he said Mariano was kind of like a spare part, and that there was, because Jeter was struggling in 96 spring training, the conversation was to trade Rivera to Seattle for Felix Fermin as a stopgap and keep Jeter in the minors. Ian, I'd never heard that before. Did you?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, they had a big meeting about both of those players and stories, and yeah, it was possible that Mariano was going to Seattle. If you remember, Showalter in that 95 series against Seattle could have used Mariano more than he did and later regretted it. Just didn't know exactly what he had. And really, I don't think anybody realized Rivera was going to develop into the greatest closer of all time. But if Showalter had used him more in that series, maybe the Yankees win it, and he keeps his job. But Jeter was almost demoted in the spring. They were having discussions about that. A couple of people went to bat for him. I think the late, great Gene Michael was one.
Stick.
And I think Gene Michael, if I remember correctly, said to Steinbrenner, listen, we talked about Jeter struggling as a young player, and we were going to stick with him. Why are we having this conversation now? And ultimately, Stick and others in that room prevailed, and Jeter stayed on the team and went north with the Yankees to New York, and the rest is history. So those stories are absolutely true.
What's your favorite Rivera story, Ian? You got one?
I think his farewell season is one of the nicest, most decent things I've ever seen a professional athlete do, where he did a farewell tour in basically every ballpark, and he set this up in advance. He wanted to sit down before games and meet with people who were vendors, who were janitors, who were people in ballparks who most players probably never gave a second thought to, right? And he just wanted to hear their stories and connect with them and say thank you for making this game and this incredible sport possible. This is one of the best ideas I've ever seen. He executed it. I wrote a column about it. And the people that he touched were really, it's an hour or two that they'll never forget and the rest of their lives. It meant so much to them that somebody of his stature cared about them and took an hour or two out before a series or before a game to just say, hey, thank you so much for what you contributed to the game of baseball. And that's why ultimately not one person could bring himself or herself to not vote for Mariano going into the Hall of Fame. I thought for sure somebody, Rich, would say,
me too.
I'm not going to allow a closer to be, or a reliever to be the first 100% inductee into Cooperstown. But his grace, I think, just won everyone over, and that's why he made history.
Yeah, Jeter's next, though, next year. Do you think, and we all know, outside playing field influences sometimes rear on a voting card. Do you think what's going on with Jeter in Miami, or somebody thinks that Jeter's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, that he won't get in unanimous, or you think he's going to be the next unanimous guy next year? Ian?
I think he'll be unanimous. I think there's a chance that, listen, outside of New York, a lot of people always felt he was slightly overrated because of the New York marketplace and the teams he played on. Defensively, at times he struggled. It's possible one or two people might not vote for him, but I think Mariano going in at 100% is going to help Jeter do the same thing. And listen, at the end of the day, you look at the 5 rings, the only Yankee to get 3,000 hits. How do you not vote for Derek Jeter?
I know.
I understand you could have said the same thing about everyone from Babe Ruth through Hank Aaron.
Ken Griffey,
and
in 2.
Right,
Ken
Griffey and Willie Mays, and so many people been unanimous and weren't. So I do think Jeter will get in at 100%.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.